an interesting start in the sense that my role was to launch the SSE brand to the market for a very large company with nearly 6 million customers, but many of whom weren't aware that SSE was their supplier. So the importance of awards, and to misquote John Hegarty, is very much that the role of the brand is the most important, most expensive piece of real estate in the world, and that's because it sits in the mind. And so our role was really, how do you get the brand into somebody's mind? And in what is a very low engagement category, like utilities tend to be, that meant that we needed a very powerful creative route, and that was why awards were so important to us. And it created quite a significant tension internally, because as a marketing team and as the leader of the advertising side, I saw the rationale, I saw the logic, and went, yeah, it's really important therefore that we back ourselves to try and win these awards and get into them. But internally, in what is a financially and engineering-led organisation, awards translates as expensive, excess, flashy agencies, too much coffees and wine and whatever else, and therefore it was pretty deeply unpopular. And therefore we ended up essentially being really successful on the awards side with 4 Cannes Lions, 24 awards in total over just over a year's period, and a pretty sensational campaign, but in a way which I think we had to really play down internally. So you ended up in this real dichotomy where externally it was seen as being this breakaway success, and internally it was seen very much as business as usual. And that felt slightly uncomfortable as a marketing person, but it worked very well for us. So I'm probably slightly old-fashioned or new-fashioned in the sense that I really believe in the role of planning, and in particular the role of strategy in generating a great idea, and that's what helps lead you to great creative work. So on our account, we've arguably over-invested versus many contemporary businesses, and we have what I like to think is probably one of the best planning teams in London on the account full-time. And one of the impacts of the cost conversations over the last few years with marketing and procurement has been that planning role has often been taken out, which I really believe is quite a mistake. If I look at what really helps create the quality of work, it's a combination of that top planning team, the top account team, and as you start to look through the creative work, that boldness to say, I really need to break through here. So in our case, we went through 6 or 7 different creative presentations, and it was actually a freelance creative team who came into Adam & Eve, pitched the work. We absolutely loved that work, and are now one of the senior creative teams in Adam & Eve full time. So you have to have that level of ambition as a client to say, it really is important because I need to break through, and I'm prepared to keep working with the agency in partnership to get to something which does justice to the idea and is going to work for the customer as well. So I think there are two schools of thought for marketeers. I always believe as a marketing person, your role is to kind of sort of support the creative process, but the agencies are the experts in terms of the creative execution, and that's why we pay them the money. And I think one of the observations we heard in the room, which is certainly true in my organisation as in many others, is as you start going through into the final stages of work, lots of very senior people want to get out their pens and start adjusting. And I personally believe that's actually value destructive as opposed to supportive, primarily because the agencies are best placed to do that. And I think one of the colleagues in the room mentioned very clearly that they actually worked through an exercise to show that cost on a single campaign over £500,000. And I think that's probably a good example that as marketeers we need to know, when do we take a back seat and let the agencies run with the work, and where do we actually add value the most.